Alexis. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Just going to start in about another 2 minutes. Just want you to make sure you get to the right meeting. This is not the bowling league. This is not the tennis club. Okay. And there's the state attorney, so be careful. All right, well, we can start a minute early because we're going to be about an hour and a half beyond where we normally are. First of all, thank you very much for attending this afternoon's meeting. This is the North County Neighborhood Coalition, and I'm Sal Faso. I'm the founder and executive director of the organization. Within the room, we have a number of individuals that I want to recognize. Mayor Tinsley from Palm Beach Gardens. Okay, Marcy. Chief Dominic Pape from Police Chief of the Palm Beach Gardens. Where's Mo? Right in front of me. Traffic engineer from Palm Beach County. Okay, Mel Pollock from the Corradino Group. Where's Rochelle Litt? Oh, there she is. Stand up, Rochelle. Be recognized. Candidate for Palm Beach Gardens City Council. Matthew Farrar. He's hiding someplace on me. Okay, we'll get him later. Matthew Lane from the school district. Okay, great. All right, we've got a number of subjects. Obviously, one of them is very obvious to most of you. Where's Dana? I didn't see her. She came. Oh, I hugged her. Okay, Dana. All right, Dana, thank you very much for coming today. It's Palm Beach Gardens City Council member. Okay, great. They sneak in the back door. Oh, they're leaning against the wall over there. Steve, you want to come in? There's seats up here. Over here. Let everybody. No? Logodice, Mr. Logodice?
Councilmember Kemp is here.
Who came in? Oh, John. There you go. I got him. Got your text message. Appreciate it. John Kemp, City Council of Palm Beach Gardens. Okay. Righty. And I see Steve Stepp. He was the Assistant City Manager from Palm Beach Gardens. Okay. And I think we got them all, or maybe one or two out. Okay, this is our NCNC monthly meeting. We've got some topics on the agenda that are going to cause us to go a little longer than we normally do. Normally we have a meeting from 4 to 5:30, but I thought all the topics were going to be very, very important and very pertinent to you. And I want to make sure you get the information you need so you can do what with it? Take it back to your communities, communicate with your boards, communicate with the residents, obviously, let them know what's going on. We don't hold these meetings just to have meetings. We hold these meetings to be informative, obviously to help you present to your residents what's going on in the area, eliminate rumors and misinformation, okay, so that you have the facts from the speakers. And we've got a good cadre of speakers. They're all well-known and versed in the topics they're going to present. So let me make sure I didn't miss anybody. I think we're good. Okay. We are videotaping this meeting, and this meeting will subsequently be put onto the NCNC website, or you can put it on your own website in your own community if you wish, okay? We're paying. Okay. With that, the topic at hand that everybody's been asking about is what's going to happen to Northlake Boulevard and the intersection of Beeline and the CSX Railway and so forth. And there's been a lot of meetings, a lot of conference calls, a lot of discussion, and a lot of misinformation, unfortunately. But we have the gentleman who's the senior project leader from the Corradino Group who is managing this project, because the project really for CSX to close Northlake Boulevard falls within the footprint of the FDOT project, which was to fix up the intersection at Northlake Boulevard into something called a free-flowing intersection, which we still can't figure out, but we'll know it eventually. But that project continues, and alongside of that, obviously, is the CSX Railroad. Now, we, the NCNC, have been following this project for quite some time, and we are not in any position, we are not taking any position to tell CSX what to do with their railway. That is their responsibility. They have the right-of-way. They have an agreement with the county. And from that perspective, you know, we know that CSX wants to maintain, from a very safe point of view, that intersection, and we applaud that effort. So we're taking the position to support it. At this point in time, we're not taking any position to take exception to it. They are the rail experts, not me, okay? So with that, let me introduce our first speaker, Mel Pollock. He's going to speak for about 10 or 15 minutes and open it up for some Q&As. And we'll manage to the time on that. Maybe we'll go another 10 or 15 minutes after. So, Mel, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought I was third. What's this? Good afternoon. Again, my name is Mel Pollock with the Cordino Group representing FDOT on this project. I wanted to include some of the standard slides and standard information for those of you not familiar with the project, and we can go through that very quickly. In essence, it's a project to reconstruct and widen Beeline Highway from the intersections with Military Trail and Blue Heron through the intersection with Northlake. As Sal said, we are going to be implementing a continuous flow, partial continuous flow interchange at Northlake Boulevard. This will facilitate both morning and evening peak hour volumes through that intersection. Some of the slides or pictures on the right are current conditions, and actually these are actually a couple weeks old, so some of the things that you see here have already been improved since then. But for the most part, right now we're working on the west side of the roadway, on the west or the right side of the northwest bound lanes. If you've driven down, you see in this picture a lot of the construction is in front of Steeplechase. We've been working on the roadway improvements, the wall on the outside. You can see the curb and gutter starting to flow in, so you can really see the footprint of what this road will look like when we're complete. This next slide then. This is going past the Florida's Turnpike Overpass Bridge. This structure actually we are replacing with this project. Currently it's 2 lanes in each direction on the Turnpike. We're actually constructing it to accommodate 10 lanes in the future. 2 of those lanes will be exit points for Beeline at Jog Road, and then 4 lanes in each direction. So we're doing this work now in conjunction with our project to be ready to receive those Turnpike projects in the future. So this project is a mix of both the primary roadway and the Turnpike overpass. Now this is a view looking to the east. This is along Northlake Boulevard, approaching the railroad and the intersection. You can see in the median, actually now if you've driven it today, the roadway work that was done in the median has already been paved, and that's in preparation for upcoming traffic shift. With that, there's a truss that goes over, you can barely see it here, a truss that goes over the eastbound lanes. We've been coordinating with CSX for the removal of that truss because we're going to be shifting traffic to the median to do some of the improvements on the outside. In those discussions, this is where it really came to our attention that CSX had concerns with the crossing itself, with the safety of that crossing. They've had several of their Amtrak trains have had issues going through the intersection. It's been on their radar for some time, but they more or less have dictated that they are going to replace this crossing when we go in to do our upcoming work at the intersection. Some of the details that we have, and this has been distributed throughout the community, but I wanted to confirm it here today with NCNC. We've been coordinating with the municipalities, emergency services on this, but this will be a full closure of the eastbound and westbound lanes. Talking with CSX, some of the issues that they have with the crossing now are because they constructed it in phases initially. They don't see that they have an opportunity to do the necessary work for the rail and break it into phases again, because basically we would just continue to come out here and inconvenience the public by having to replace it in the future. The duration of the closure that we've coordinated with CSX, they have said it's going to be an 8-day closure. They'll start on a Friday evening after the PM peak, and they will continue work until they are complete, and that roadway will be closed for that duration. One of the things that was very important working with emergency services was being able to maintain emergency access. So what we are going to do for that is utilize the ramp just to the north of the intersection, and that's going to be modified to accommodate emergency access 24/7 both directions. So we're working on those plans now with our engineer of record to get that set up and coordinating with emergency services to ensure that we have all the details necessary for them to navigate that intersection for emergency access, and it will be under law enforcement control. We are waiting the date for when CSX is going to implement the closure. They're having meetings this week to confirm that date, and we're working for a July timeframe. That's really to, one, obviously keep it out of the school window, which, as you're aware, school will commence, I believe, is August 11th. And two, trying to do it earlier in the summer to try and keep it out of that peak hurricane period. We do have contingencies with CSX if there is a hurricane during the window of the closure. Obviously, there's going to be a go, no-go period prior to them initiating the closure when we'll be having the discussion about the tropics. But they are aware that if there is an evacuation order, they will have contingency plans to reopen the eastbound lanes in an emergency capacity if there is an event. And we're currently, as Sal said, Mo Alturk is here. He's with Palm Beach County Traffic Engineering. We're working very closely with the county as well as the municipalities involved, not just along the corridor here in the communities, but also to the southwest. If we have a closure here, those detour routes will take traffic through those communities. So we're working very closely on those intersections, if you want to go. So currently, we have two primary routes for the detour. One will be west on Northlake, down Seminole Pratt to Southern, and then back east. And then the second will be down Coconut, Orange to 60th, and then that decision between Royal Palm and State Road 7 extension to Okeechobee. You know, obviously, depending on where you're at and your familiarity with the community, there's certainly other routes that local traffic will take, and you know, we would be we would certainly not have a full appreciation for the community if we didn't acknowledge some of these other routes that will be taken by local traffic. But these are the primary two detour routes that we've identified. We're working with the county to improve those intersections as far as signal timing adjustments and connectivity to their system. We're also working on the detour plan with our engineer for PCMS, variable message signs, placements, and that effort is currently underway. Those are more or less the primary points that I wanted to make today. Sal said keep it short and you know, really open it up to questions that you might have that we can discuss here for the record. Yes, sir.
You did mention that. Microphone for the recording, please.
It's being recorded, everything, so we need the microphones.
There you go. There's the mic to your left.
Are you going to have other construction work in process in regard to the other whole change in that intersection while the railroad is doing their work?
Yes, sir. That's an excellent question. And that is something that if there is a silver lining, we're going to take advantage of that window of time to do as much of the work that we can that's related to our construction project to ensure for our future phases that we'll have minimal disruptions to traffic. So if there is one benefit, we will get the signalization work done. We will get some of our other work in place. So our contractor's pretty excited to have that window of opportunity to get in there and really get some work done while that roadway is closed. Yes, ma'am.
So the 8-day window that's been applied, you said that it will reopen when the work is completed. Is that 8-day providing the possibility that it might finish sooner? And is there any chance that it might go longer?
CSX, and we've pressed this point, we've had several meetings with them in conjunction with some of the municipal leadership, and they're pretty confident in that 8-day window. If things go well, there could be opportunities, but they do not see it going longer than 8 days. It's all built into their schedule.
I'm just concerned about how that is a feasible detour when I know it's one lane out on Northlake Boulevard out there and one lane on Coconut. And I know the traffic now is crazy. So you're telling us that we have to deal with trucks and all of that stuff on that one lane, I can't even see how it's going to be safe and feasible to even work. I mean, God forbid I had to take somebody to the hospital or something like that. There's no way out. I think there's going to be traffic there constantly. It's going to be unworkable. Is there going to be somebody there monitoring it, a traffic person, or is there just going to be a light there and there's going to be fights, and I'm guaranteed there's going to be crazy stuff happening?
Yes, sir. Well, obviously we're working, like I said, we're working closely with Palm Beach County Traffic. They're going to install modems on the signals that they don't have connectivity to currently, and they will be adjusting signal time throughout the corridor, not just on the detour routes, but also on the east-west routes, right? So we're going to be putting a lot more traffic on Okeechobee. We're going to be putting a lot more traffic on Southern. It's almost an all-hands-on-deck approach, both from the traffic engineering perspective, and then, the municipalities involved, law enforcement involved as well, to be able to control this. There's been a few issues over the last few months. I think there was a fatality out by the shops at Ibis, where that road was closed, and we were able to kind of get a sense of what would happen. So those travel times obviously were increased, but the 3 hour, 2 hour, kind of Armageddon, we didn't really see that with those events. Obviously, with everyone kind of having that understanding, hopefully we can manage that window of time during the peak morning and afternoon. But, obviously a lot of it is going to be adjustments for the green time to get more traffic through each intersection.
Will we know next week when the start date is?
going to be reported.
Is there a drop dead date now? I mean, we've heard about July 18th. We've heard it would not be the 4th or the 11th, July 18th. When will CSX give us a drop dead date?
Yes, sir.
Of start?
They're committed to providing the date this week. Like I said, they have several internal meetings. What they don't want to have happen and what we don't want to have happen is provide a date and then it moves. So they are committed to having a date this week, whether it's the 18th or the 24th, so that they can ensure that they have everything ready. When they do the closure, they're ready to go.
How will that be announced to the public?
Yes, sir. We'll distribute it through our distribution list. We'll blast it through press release. We're going to go through each municipality, Palm Beach County. So that information will be shared with the media. There's certainly a lot of interest with the media. We've had several discussions already and provided them information about the project. So the big thing for me is dispelling those rumors and ensuring that everyone gets the same information. And that's kind of been our focus over the last 2 or 3 weeks since we've really started this discussion process. Thank you, sir.
Could you tell me if you've evaluated the possibility of doing the work at a nighttime schedule, let's say 7 or 8 o'clock at night till 4 or 5 in the morning, when the traffic is ever so much less, rather than during the peak hours?
Yes, sir. For CSX, basically what they're doing is a full replacement. So not only will the rail crossing be removed, also the vehicular crossing, all those panels will be removed from that intersection. So once they start, that eastbound, westbound crossing will basically be obliterated, and then they will be reconstructing it. Once they have it reconstructed, they have to run trains on it, more or less load that rail and make adjustments. So it's all built into their schedule. But once they start, they're going to be working pretty much around the clock to get it back to opening condition. As far as if you're asking about just general construction along Beeline Highway, most of our work is outside of traffic. I know last week when we were doing the paving work, there was some congestion. We did initiate that work outside of the morning peak hour. I think we started at 10 o'clock. But if you're traveling through there between 10 to probably 2 o'clock, you definitely were in that congestion. So my apologies to you all who may have been caught in that. But we're pretty much static at that intersection now for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, Mel, can you comment on communications with the residents one more time? How are you going to distribute pamphlets I've read and so forth?
Yes, sir. And we'll also be sending it through NCNC as well. So every avenue, and we're seeing some of our documents already being circulated, and that's great. To me, that's exciting. That means that the word is getting out there. But every avenue possible through the city of Palm Beach Gardens, through NCNC, through Palm Beach County, through FDOT, through our project distribution list. Every avenue that we have, we will be sending this information out as soon as we receive it. But those details that I went through, that's accurate information that we have today. 8-day closure, starting on a Friday, should be in July, and once they close it, it will remain closed.
Thank you. I do want to say that, first of all, we've been communicating with everybody. Our public safety is in the best interest. You know, obviously, Palm Beach Gardens, Fields of Public Safety is our utmost concern. And we've been talking to CSX to make sure that that is first and foremost. Please log on to our website, pbgfl.gov. We have push notifications. We have an app. As soon as we get a date, we are going to push that information out to everybody. So you can go on our website. There's a Northlake Boulevard link, and everything is going to be there. But if you sign up for our app, you will receive it right there on your cell phone like you do the news. As soon as the minute that we get it, we are going to push that out there. So please sign up for push notifications on our website and/or our app, and you'll get this information ASAP. As soon as we have it, we're sending it out there.
So 2 questions. One, any of this weather dependent, meaning not hurricane, but if we get 4 inches of rain a day, is that going to slow it down, or are we on schedule?
No, and we did talk with CSX. I think they're pretty confident, other than a significant tropical event, and obviously we would just pull the plug and look at a reschedule. And obviously if we have a significant event in July here, it might not occur until next summer. We're not going to get out of that window. We're very cognizant of the school year as well.
Yeah. Do you have any plans to have video of the progress being made? Meaning, why not put a live video up at the intersection so people, if they go to the PBG site or other places, can see what's going on?
No, that's a good suggestion. We do have a live camera there currently.
I know.
I'm looking at the man who operates it. But we do have a smart work zone consultant as well, who you may have seen a trailer out there with the camera, and that might be something that we can look into as well, in addition to the camera on the signalization.
Mo, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we have actually cameras along the entire corridor. We added modems recently at all the signals along Northlake Boulevard, and we communicate now with them live, and the purpose of it is to allow our staff to be monitoring live what's happening there and be able to tweak the signal timing accordingly. And we also, I believe, for the communication and dissemination of information, I think you are planning on deploying dynamic message signs at the location of the closure about 2 weeks ahead of time, so everybody, especially locals going through it, will be able to see it in time.
That's correct. And, we envision in the neighborhood of 30, 40 variable message signs that we're going to deploy at each of the significant intersections to just remind you of the closure. So we'll probably end up working with both the Turnpike and FDOT for signage along the Turnpike and I-95 as well.
Mel, at the beginning of last week, as you indicated, it was a mess. We had
Yes, sir.
5-mile backups. Those of us who had to drive, it was 1 lane, then you somehow got into 2nd lane, then you got back into 2 lanes, and there was nobody working. So you took action, and we appreciate that, and nothing is happening now, but you indicated it's only going to be up till July 18th. What do we have in store for us after the CSX finishes its work? Can we get the same kind of good flow that's going on now after that?
Well, that certainly is our goal. Yes, sir. We're going to continue to maintain the 2 lanes eastbound. It'll be shifted to the inside so we can work on the outside, kind of similar to what you saw or are seeing on the other side of the intersection. So that is always the focus, and we're always looking at it every day. When we had the single right with that lane blocked off, we figured out a way to open a double right, and that actually has improved traffic. Of course, we were going right into the off season for school. So, on a regular day, there's really not a lot of congestion in the morning currently. Our big focus, and you can even see it on a Friday or obviously on the weekend, or any kind of a school holiday, the significant traffic that peak morning is introduced with just school traffic. So, we're very cognizant of that, but we're committed to maintaining those 2 lanes and that right turn lane on the B line throughout the project. And, certainly any feedback that we hear from you all or see on a day-to-day basis, we try to implement it as quickly as we can.
In an emergency, we live in a community that has a fair number of retired people. Has any contingency plan been instituted and implemented in the case of an emergency vacuum lift? What has been done for that?
We haven't gotten to that level of discussion at this point. We're focusing on ensuring that we have the emergency access 24/7. Obviously, if there's an event that you need to, get, to treatment quickly, obviously the best course of action would be, to call 911. We certainly have plenty of window of opportunity out there. We haven't had those discussions with emergency services, but in that closure window, I mean, that's a great opportunity to land something if something needs to be landed. But as far as if there is an emergency, 911 is always going to be your best.
Is there a site that would handle that emergency that's west of the B line? We have nothing, zero. What will we do? Who would be handling an emergency case? And if you're interested in the safety of the public,
Yes, sir.
that should be a primary thing. Forget about the traffic.
Oh, of course.
The absolute excellent question, and we have a brand-new fire station that just opened up in Avenir, west of this area, this intersection. And that's why, actually, that's one of the things that I wanted to say and I didn't, is please, if you have an emergency, call 911, because our fire station is right across the way here in Avenir. It opened up last Friday, and they can take care of your emergency. And we have obviously mutual aid. We have a paramedic fire person right here that can also answer that question. We coordinate and collaborate with the county, with our adjacent municipalities. We all work together for these types of emergency. And yes, we will be able to respond with our brand new, already, everything is there. We have our people, our staff, everybody's there, and they're operating out of that fire station as we speak.
The only
With all
thing I
due
would add is
respect.
West Palm Beach has Fire Station 8, fully equipped.
With all due respect, I understand that. But now, so people that would just break a leg or fall, that would normally get in a car and drive, they're going to be calling there. So you're going to have not 10 times, probably 20 times to 100 times more calls. So that 911 call is not going to be answered as easy as it is. So it's easy to say what you want to do, and they're beautiful, those places, but there's definitely not enough.
Okay, so that, sorry.
Just so you know, we are going to stage law enforcement and extra fire rescue apparatuses at Station 6 and that side for those other calls. We also are going to be set to land a helicopter at Station 6 on the back property if needed. Now, the problem that you have with that is weather. But we can land a chopper there. We've already got the land that's been cleared. But again, the other big key is we're staging assets at Station 6, law enforcement and fire, to take on that increased call load. And this way we don't have to worry so much about the emergency ingress and egress. Don't get wrong, if it gets real big, we're going to need some more units, but we believe at this juncture that we have enough units staged on both sides. If that changes after day one, we will adjust again. And West Palm we're working with too. They're going to do the same thing, and I think County Fire is to put other units out there. And I know that we've opened up our fire station to the other first responders if they need to stage vehicles, things like that. And we're also going to do public works vehicles out there. Let's just say we get a bad storm and trees are knocked down on that Northlake Road. We'll have crews there to be able to at least move that stuff out of the way. That's kind of our plan right now. Again, it's a plan, it's very fluid, and if it changes within 10 hours or 12 hours, we'll add more assets to it.
So the quantity
Got time
of
for two more
ambulances-
questions, and that's it. One more after this.
So the quantity of ambulances is crucial, obviously, and emergency vehicles. Everything is northeast of us that we would normally go to for help.
Identify your
Just-
community.
Pardon?
Identify your community, please.
Oh, IBIS, sorry.
IBIS?
IBIS.
Okay.
So the question, this is a question, and it may be just, a wasted question, but knowing that Avenir was going to have the road that would feed off into the Beeline, that would allow us that exit route northeast, was there no possibility, since if this weather incident comes our way and this gets postponed till next year because you're not going to touch the school year, without major endangerment to anyone who's using those rails, could this not have been done at a more crucial time when we have, or a more convenient time, when we have that additional potential exit through Avenir?
I don't think that's a wasted question at all. And that was definitely a question that was asked as far as the timeliness. Obviously, infrastructure projects are underway or planned for the future, and that was a question discussed with CSX. Can this wait? Can this wait another year? Can this wait another 2 years? Personally, I wanted it to wait until my job was done and we were out of there. But they said no. What they don't want to have happen. Obviously, some of the issues that they're having are with their Amtrak, which has a better suspension than their freight trains. What they don't want to have happen is an actual incident there where they do get a derailment. And if that happens, the same detour is going to be in place for who knows how long, unplanned and unscheduled. So, we're trying to make this the best coordinated effort we can, and I really appreciate some of the municipal leadership standing up, and we are working very closely with everyone involved to make this the best possible plan and outcome that we can make it.
Yeah. I'm going to introduce Armando Fana. He's the Deputy Administrator from West Palm Beach. Armando, you want to stand up? Make a comment?
As been said, we've been participating consistently with the calls and the discussions with FDOT, with our county partners and other municipalities, and continue to do so. And public safety has been the number one thing we've been stressing. The discussions have led into this emergency ramp area that the emergency vehicles will be able to access. The other question that came up recently, I wanted the folks who get services from the city for sanitation is there won't be any interruption in sanitation services. We'll have normal pickups. We're making adjustments in our schedule to try to make that happen. So no worries about sanitation pickups.
And the last point, just reminded me, the shops at IBIS and other, retail and services in the area. We're going to do door to door and make sure that they're well aware once we know those dates, so that they can plan accordingly as far as scheduling their deliveries and making sure that they're stocked up and ready to go as well.
Ann from Calusa. Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
To piggyback on the Reliever Road, are you going to open the gate at the Reliever Road, up by the canal?
No, ma'am. We're focused.
Is that going to be unlocked so that people could go north that way?
I don't have any information on that, to be honest with you. We're focused on making this detour as safe as possible, communicating that to the public. I know that there's other opportunities that are being discussed, but really we're focused on the intersection and the detour.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody have one last really burning question they got to get off their chest here? No, Victor, you talk too much. Gentleman in the back, give it. That's it. Last question.
This may be a very small point, but you're sitting in West Palm Beach here.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. You're sitting here in West Palm Beach, and most of the people that I've heard being introduced today are from Palm Beach Gardens. All I ask is that you please make sure that West Palm Beach gets all of the information dumps that come out, so that we aren't left wondering what's happening.
Yes, sir. No, West Palm is very much involved in the process, from the elected officials on through police and fire, as well as their engineering staff. So, we had a call today, probably had close to 100 individuals on it, and the majority of those were either elected officials or staff from the respective municipalities, West Palm, Riviera Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Indian Trails, Improvement District, Lochahatchee Groves, Wellington, Royal Palm. So, we are really working to engage, like I said, every community that's really going to be touched by this. So that's good feedback. Thank you, sir.
I would tell you, as a resident, voter, taxpayer, all the municipalities, I'm very proud of them. They've just put their fences down and they work together as a team. And I'm not saying that for any political reason or whatsoever. I mean, they've demonstrated teamwork. They've asked the tough questions. Some they got good answers back to. Other times they just weren't satisfied. They went back a second and a third time and they modified what the answers happened to be. So with that, Mel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
We're just loaded with good news today. Wait till you hear the next one. Hold on to your wallets. Here comes Dorothy Jacks, the county appraiser, to deliver the news on what she perceives to be an increase in appraised value in the homes in Palm Beach County, which has a direct effect on all of us in this room that pay taxes and property taxes. She's no stranger to us. Welcome, Dorothy Jacks. Dorothy.
Thank you, Sal. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I think it's interesting that we're dovetailing the conversation about public safety, because certainly property tax has faced its share of hurdles this year, but I would just remind everybody here that it is the primary funding source for public safety, and certainly also for roads and all kinds of various things. But I do want to talk a little bit today about what my office does, but more significantly and fairly quickly, talk about values in the North End and how things have changed over the last year as far, and also what you might see as you look forward toward your, maybe not look forward toward your tax bill, but look forward in time towards your tax bill later this year. So anyway, thank you, Sal, as always, for having me. I do try and come about once a year and update everyone, and it's always good to see so many faces here, too. So the property appraiser, we heard 220 people in 5 locations in Palm Beach County. I am an independent elected official. You elected me in 2016, and I continue on in the job today, although I have now worked in the office for 35 years. So I like to tell you I started when I was 11. So, there you go, right. But it's been my career, my passion, and I enjoy immensely being a public servant. We value all of Palm Beach County annually. Many of you come from states where there might have been a reassessment every 4 years, every 7 years. But in Florida, we are an annual assessment state, which means we are tracking the market each year and setting the value for the next year. We base value on what is happening on January 1st. So if construction was completed last year, it is added to by January 1st. The property was able to be lived in or used, it's added to the roll for the subsequent year. So new construction is a big number for 2025, which is why I mention it. But that's the sort of the cycle of the process. We also administer homestead exemption, being the primary exemption. There's many other special exemptions. Well over half of the properties in Palm Beach County have a homestead exemption, which of course is granted to Florida residents who make Florida their primary home. And homestead continues to be a really great benefit of being a resident. It not only provides an exemption, a tax savings, but it also caps the increase that you as taxpayers see on your property each year to 3%. So although your value might be continuing to rise, and our office is responsible to track that rise, unless you sell your property, you would only see a 3% increase each year. We also manage the county base map, and I always like to mention that because it is a really good record of who owns what and where it is. Probably the best known product of our office is our website, PAPA, Property Appraiser Public Access, which you all, I hope many of you used PAPA? Yes, good, yes. It's funny, that's the only way anybody really knows who I am, is they've seen my picture on PAPA. But PAPA's been around now for 25 years, and I've been involved with it since the very beginning. And the main reason we do it is it's a fantastic tool to help you get at our records, honestly, without calling us, right? And these days, who wants to call anybody? But if you do want to call us, we're there to answer the phone. But PAPA is a great first-line resource, and is another thing I think that's great about Florida's property tax system, in that we are able to provide you with all those records, which helps not just you when you might be shopping for a home or looking up who just bought the house next door, but also it helps businesses run their business. And the biggest users of our website are mortgage companies and realtors and title firms and everybody from the painter who is able to do a online estimate for you because they can work out the square footage of your home without even having to come out to it by using our website. So we like to think that it's a tool for not just our community, but also for the businesses who are successfully operating in Florida. So I'd like to just go over the North End municipalities and how they are faring with the 2025 tax roll. The first or the second column after the names is the 2024 final number, and the third column is the 2025 estimates of value, which went out on June 1st to all the cities. We are about to, very close to submitting the preliminary numbers, which the cities will use to set their tax rate this year. So your tax rate is a very simple equation. It is, what is the budget of the city? What are they going to set their budget at? Divided by these values equals a rate. So it's that simple. And then all of us pay multiple different taxing authorities on our final tax bill. So, you get that bill, and there look to be about sort of 8 or 10 taxing authorities. You're actually paying a tax to each of those, and then it tallies up to that great big number at the bottom of the bill. But the process by which those taxing authorities begin to set that rate begins now. They get these increases from these numbers from us, and then they begin setting. I'll just draw your attention up, and then the red column is the percent increase, the percent change. It's been an increase for many years now. In fact, this year was the first year we saw a decrease in a city, and the city we saw it in was South Palm Beach, which is a community along the ocean south of Palm Beach. It's a small-ish community, primarily condominiums that are not young. Many of them are 50 years old and we have been seeing the market reacting to the need for the catastrophe surveys that are being required and causing many of these condominium buildings to have huge assessments against their residents. So we're seeing the market react to that by some people selling at quite a discount because the assessment is being built into the sale, things like that. So, but otherwise, every other taxing authority in Palm Beach County saw an increase. At the very bottom of this list, you'll see Palm Beach County at 7.7% increase over the prior year. But above that, I'll just reference a couple of these just for interest's sake. You'll see many of our bedroom communities, Juno Beach, Jupiter, and then, of course, Palm Beach Gardens, and even down to Cuesta, and North Palm, all with nice increases. Much of that actually also what we call recapture, which is where I mentioned the 3% cap. Even though your value may not rise, if you have 3% cap savings, we are required to recapture 3% more each year until your capped value meets your market value. So a lot of that is actually coming from recapture. I guess what I'm saying to you is if you are homesteaded, you can expect a 3% tax increase right off the bat. That doesn't include any possible tax rate changes or increases that you might see from taxing authorities. So just something to think about. The other ones, Palm Beach Gardens has had a very healthy number this year. A lot of a new building happening in Palm Beach Gardens, especially in the Avenir communities. A lot of us think about new construction as big ticket items, big office towers and things like that. But actually, new construction really hits home when you start seeing a lot of building in residential. So communities where more and more residential is being added are seeing increases in value. And of course, just further down the list, Mangonia Park has always done fairly well, good location, near the coastline, near the Port of Palm Beach, seeing some industrial increases. We've seen a lot of increases in industrial over the last few years. And I was pleased to see Lake Park doing as well as they're doing. Palm Beach Shores had new condominiums on the south end of their community, on the north end of the Palm Beach Inlet. If you all can envision where I am, there's some new condominiums being built in that area, and that's helped their numbers. And then just again, new construction on the right, some very high new construction numbers this year, some of the highest we've seen, over $5 billion in new construction in Palm Beach County, which is pretty substantial. And actually reflecting also the increasing cost of construction, if you think about it for a minute. Just increasing costs both in materials and labor are driving our new construction values, as well as the fact that there is a lot of new construction taking place. So what will you see this year? In August, we will mail you a notice of proposed tax, which will tell you kind of what your number is going to look like for the year. And then in November, of course, you'll receive the bill from my friend Ann Gannon, the tax collector, with the actual payment due by the end of March. So we will, I'd love to take some questions if you have some. I know you have a lot of other interesting subjects to talk about today. Please know my office is always available to you. We are very, very transparent and open. And in fact, I said about the phone calls, but we do, in fact, answer our phones. We're big fans of that. And we have a great office here on PGA. If you're ever interested in stopping in, or you have residents who are new to the area and they need to file for homestead, you can file year-round as soon as you buy your home. We'd love to see them. They can do it online. They can do it in their pajamas at midnight if they want. Or if they'd like to come in, we have a great office in the courthouse on PGA. Not the new tax collector's building, but the actual original courthouse. Go on in there. We're on the second floor, and we'd love to see you. Thank you so much.
We got time for one or two questions.
Yes. Do the insurance companies use the data that you're publishing in order to set rates? Because, like even if you have a homestead exemption, you're going to have a 3% rate, but I'm assuming that they're going to be relying on the gross number in order to set the rates, correct?
Well, as far as their rates, I know very little about how they set those. I think all of us might be in a mystery about how they set those. Certainly they use our data a lot to confirm information about size and square footage and property type and so forth. Our data will include the difference between what is a garage and what is under air, and that can be usually quite important to the insurance companies. We always recommend that you make the insurance company do their own due diligence and come out and check our work. But yes, we do hear a lot from the insurance companies that they're using our data to verify size and maybe age and things like that. Technically, they should be doing it themselves, coming out and looking at it themselves. But in the interest of time, they do quite often use our site. But as far as setting the rates, that I can't help you with. I mean, the value, our values are usually around, we try to hit around 85% of true market value. And a lot of that is also because of timing. We're trying to say your value is X on January 1st. By the time you receive your bill in November, a lot can have changed. So during the year. But between our information and then usually a private appraisal that has to happen when you buy a home, that can also be a more accurate sort of in time, like at that moment value on your home. But yes, they are using our data.
One last question.
Good. Thank you all so much. Great to be with you. Thanks, Sal.
Appreciate it very much. Thanks, Dorothy. And it's not the only time we see her during the year. There's a few of us on the board of the NCNC. We do visit Dorothy to give her our perspectives on whether or not that appraised value was really right or not. Okay. The next presentation I happened to witness firsthand at Mirasol when they came out to present to their residents. But how many of us in the room, I'm just curious, have ever been affected by some internet scam, credit card scam, some kind of fraud kind of situation? You'd be surprised how many. I was surprised when I saw the residents at Mirasol stand up, who were pretty eloquent people who had enormous backgrounds, attorneys as well. See, Jim, they even got scammed. I mean, they even believed what they saw on the internet was real. But that presentation was very educational, very consuming, and very pertinent to all of us. So with that, I'm going to introduce Chief Dominic Pape from the Palm Beach Gardens, Florida Police Department. He's going to lead us off.
Good evening, and thank you so much for giving our team this great opportunity to educate you on what we see is a growing threat. That's ID theft and fraud. The internet's a great tool, but it has a very, very deep, dark side. And criminals are using all sorts of scams to con people out of their money. And what we're going to try to do is explain a lot of the different trends that we're seeing, but they're on the rise, and we need you to help us. First of all, if you ever think you're getting a scam, our non-emergency number, and we got flyers here, is 561-799-4445. Please call us. We will either send an officer out to you, maybe a detective, because we see the scams all the time. One of the biggest scams that we had is they always ask for gift cards. I can tell you that no organizations, law enforcement, take gift cards, okay? You're not going to get out of jail with gift cards. You're not going to win the lottery that's in a foreign country with gift cards, okay? I can assure you of that. If there's one out there, we haven't heard about it yet. But they're very ingenious. And then the other thing that they're able to do now is spoof telephone numbers, okay? So they, from an outside server, probably in a foreign country, they take a number and they send it to your phone. And then they leave you a message. I was the chief about 3 months. Somebody spoofed our phone, which is the chief's phone, went to a citizen's phone and said, I personally, Chief Pape, needed your personal banking information. Okay, and all you have to do is, you don't have to come to the station, just give it to us over the phone and we'll be okay with that. Luckily, they were smart enough, they hung up, they called us back on our regular number and were able to say, absolutely not. If Chief Pape needs your personal information, there'll be detectives at your house, okay? Trust me on that. But with that, I'm gonna introduce Officer Say and Detective Roman, two of our best people in this arena. They stay up on top of it, trends and everything else, and I think you're going to enjoy what they have to share with you today.
Good afternoon, Alexis Roman with Palm Beach Gardens. I've been with the agency for 18 years now and detective for the last 7 years. My primary focus is white-collar crimes and frauds amongst all the other stuff that we do get, but that's my general topic.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Officer Say. I've been with the agency now for around 10 years, and 7 of them in crime prevention specifically. And most notably, my main focus in the city is crime prevention to environmental design. It's to incorporate crime prevention features into every single development, building, remodel that we do in the city.
So we're just going to cover a quick couple topics really fast. This usually does get a lot of questions. So we're going to just cover as much as we can, and that way we have time for questions. Sorry, I normally don't use these. I'm usually loud enough. Next slide. So what is identity theft? It's not just your name and your birth date. It's not just your social security number. It's your credit card. It's your checking account. It's your bank cards. All of those informations are also your identity. Just keep in mind that nobody else has that number that's assigned to you, so therefore it's considered identity. So if somebody steals your credit card, it's only linked to you, it's not linked to your neighbor, it's not linked to anybody else. So those would be information that we would also use to charge somebody with identity theft.
Has anybody seen these text messages come through in the last few months? Hopefully nobody victim to any of them, but I mean, Sun passes after me daily. I don't know about you, but clearly I have some unpaid tolls. We just threw these up here. These are actually from my personal cell phone. Just a couple screenshots I took in the last few weeks, or since February actually. And what I really wanted you to pay attention to is at the top, right? Does this look like a SunPass email address? Same thing on this side here. So just really pay attention. I don't think anybody with a Hotmail address is contacting you from the DOT to let you know that you have unpaid tickets. But unfortunately, there are people that are falling for these scams, right? Our Apple iPhones are some of the best now with security. They're always doing updates. Every time there's a flaw, Android too, they're all on top of it, right? Every time we see a data breach or somebody was scammed somehow, we click that little reminder, hey, while you're sleeping, we're going to turn your phone off and we're going to do an update while you're sleeping to make it more secure. But if you click one of these links, we've bypassed all of that, right? So we have to be very, very careful. We have to read everything thoroughly. Just because it came in on our phone doesn't mean that it's legitimate, right? Same thing here. Anybody use two-step authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator? Has anybody in the room ever gone to review activity on it? No, okay. This is also from my personal phone as well. This is back in May. And it's just to give you an idea of what your activity log looks like. So this is Egypt, trying to log into my email. The Philippines. And as you can see, these are, we started at May 3rd and we're only into the 14th. I mean, the UAE, New York, Brazil, the list goes on and on, right? If you've never looked in there, it's pretty entertaining and also terrifying to know how many times somebody's trying to get into your email at any given moment. But, I mean, you can sit there and just scroll for hours. I mean, it's multiple times a minute sometimes. Sometimes it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. How many actually get the notification on the authenticator to let them know someone's trying to get in? Only a few, right? Can you imagine if this many came in every moment of the day? It'd be pretty terrible. So how does identity theft happen? Well, it can happen in a multitude of ways. The number one being data breaches, right? I'm sure everybody in this room has received a letter in the mail letting you know that some company somewhere is going to provide you 3 months of protection because they lost your data somehow. I have an 8-year-old, and I think every pediatrician she's ever been to now has been part of a data breach. If you have AT&T in the room, you're probably part of one of the biggest data breaches in history here a few months back. Data breaches are certainly number one, and purchasing that information over the dark web, right? Where does that information go? What good is it, right? What good is having a few million people's names, addresses, phone numbers, date of birth, social security numbers? Well, they're purchasing it in bulk on the dark web, and they're selling it to bad people to do bad things to us, right? It can also happen by stolen mail, dumpster diving. There are certainly people out there that, for whatever reason, will go into a trash can to find that bill that you didn't tear up that has your name and your address on it. Vehicle burglaries, one of the most prevalent theft or crimes that happen throughout Palm Beach County. In 13 years that I've been in law enforcement, I've never taken a stolen vehicle report yet where somebody's hot-wired a Mercedes. It just doesn't happen. We're leaving our cars unlocked. We're leaving the keys in them. And unfortunately, even if they don't get anything out of the car of value, sometimes they're taking the paperwork out of the car that tells us everything that they need to know about us, right? If our registration's in the car, that's a lot of information, right? That's a lot of personal information that someone may not have known until they got inside of our vehicle. Oversharing online. The new generation, believe it or not, they love to get a driver's license at the age of 16, go home in their driveway, stand in front of their house with the address numerical visible, in front of their parents' car with the tag also visible, and take a selfie with that ID. And now it's on the internet. Sometimes criminals take that information and they'll hold it for months, years. They'll lay in wait, and then they'll strike at a later time. So the younger generation certainly is more victim to identity theft in general. They just don't have a lot to lose yet.
So we've had a real increase in our mail theft frauds in the last few years. I would say the last 3 or 4 years, where our blue mailboxes and our white mailboxes have been compromised. And so they've hit a lot of our commercial buildings where the businesses are dropping off their mail, their bills, and stealing from there. The unfortunate part is this is one key for all of Palm Beach County. The only difference is Jupiter does have another key, so the bad guys were able to steal around the 30 keys, either by force and robbing the USPS workers or going in the businesses themselves and stealing them off their hooks. With that comes they're unlocking it, and now they have all of your information. And they are washing your checks and rewriting them to some other stolen information, other stolen person, another victim themselves that we've seen. And the money is then taken out of your account. You have to fight with your banks now to get your money back. And sometimes, like I have right now, a wire fraud that has just gone through after stealing money from one of these. And once that money is gone in wire, it's no return. Domestically, if we catch it less than 24 hours, we can try with the banks to get it back. Internationally, it's usually 2 days. But that is a big problem if you're dropping mail off in these blue boxes now. So we just suggest if you don't have to write a check, don't write a check. If you do have to write a check, try and deliver it by hand or to the business themselves, or try to use the online pay portal that they offer. I'm gonna cover a couple cases real quick with you guys, but this is one of the biggest things that we're seeing right here in Palm Beach County is our mailbox thefts.
Yeah, the electronic checks are great. Does anybody use the online bill pay feature attached to your bank account? Have you ever gone back and looked at the image that's inside of your statement to show what that check looked like when it went out? I know my bank and a few others that I've looked at personally, they don't show your entire account and routing number, or they spoof it with a different number, making it very difficult. So even if the criminal element was to intercept that check, it's not the same as washing a personal handwritten check, especially if you didn't use security ink.
No, we have I've had a check for $13,000 for a bill pay for a customer, and the $13,000 went out of the account, but they didn't look at it and know that the name was changed on it. So they said, okay, yeah, that funds cleared the account. They didn't realize they were victimized until the recipient of the check said, hey, I never got my money. And then they went back and looked, and now we're months behind trying to catch up to the bad guys. And that money now has been transferred to several different hands at this point.
One of the biggest key takeovers from that video is your information is out there. Unfortunately, if it's on the internet, it's written in ink, more or less written in chiseled stone. It's not going anywhere. There are third-party companies out there everywhere that you can, pay a monthly subscription to, and a lot of them are very, very good. Every time we do this presentation, we get approached by several people in the crowd who say, I use Identity Shield or Aurora or some other entity out there, and they love it. They love the fact that there's somebody out there that's scrubbing the internet looking for these things. But unfortunately, it is out there, and it keeps happening over and over and over again.
Just one thing for me to comment on. Once your identity is stolen, say your check was stolen or credit card number is stolen, it goes on the dark web, which is an underground website basically where all the bad guys use to steal your information. Your social security number, your personal information has a dollar value in the bad guy world. So your car gets broken into, your wallet gets stolen. Now they have your credit card or some personal information from you. They use it, it goes bad, the bad guys use it, they stop using it. Then it goes on the dark web again to be sold years later, okay? So you might think that I'm good, my crime stopped, my account is good, I changed all that information, they no longer have access to my SunTrust account, yada, 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 and then years later it happens again. It's not that same bad guy. Your information was sold on the dark web, and now another bad guy is using it. So what we recommend is once it's on the dark web or once you become a victim of identity theft is to constantly monitor your credit history, your accounts and stuff like that, because once you've been victimized, it doesn't go away. It just is on a pause for some time.
And one of the key takeaways from that video too, it's in that sheet of paper that we passed out before we got started tonight. It's a link called Have I Been Pwned that you can go on there, type in your email address, and it'll tell you how many times that email address has been part of a data breach. Fun little exercise later tonight. Victimization of senior citizens. Why senior citizens? Well, unlike the juvenile crowd, they have the nest egg, They've worked their entire lives, they have assets, they typically own their home, they have a savings account, a 401k, 457, whatever it is. They have money tucked away because they don't want to work anymore. And the bad guys know that, right? And they target our senior citizens every single day, every moment. There's probably 1 million text messages or phone calls going out this very moment trying to get somebody to send them money. I don't see this going anywhere else. It's only going to get worse, I'm sure, as you can imagine, with the advances of AI specifically. We have some more information on AI a little bit into the presentation here, but our biggest takeaway that we'd like you to go home with today is if you have elderly parents, friends with anybody who, especially if they live alone, check up on them every once in a while. Make sure they're doing okay. Ask them if they've received any text messages or phone calls where somebody is, trying to get them to make a payment, especially if it's through crypto or a gift card or some other type of payment source. But too often, there's our senior citizens, some of them are living home alone, and no one's really checking up on them until they call the detective bureau and they say, $30,000, $40,000 has been taken, and a grandkid somewhere finally just logged into the account one day and noticed it was missing, or they missed a payment on the house. So check up on them. One of the biggest scams that's been going on for probably over 20 years now is the grandparent scam. Grandma, grandpa, I've been arrested for DUI. I sound funny because my face hit the windshield and I'm talking a little bit different than I usually do, but I'm in North Carolina and they say if you send me $10,000 right now, they'll let me go home. They won't press charges against me. So this also used to be just purely over the phone, voice call only. Now we're seeing AI where they're doing even FaceTiming, and they're taking people like their relatives or grandkids, and they're replicating them because they put everything on social media, right? If I want to create an AI image or video of a juvenile nowadays, I mean, they've already put 200 photos on Instagram that I can take from, and I can create videos now. So even the old school scams like this are getting worse. I've taken a call from a doctor, a surgeon in our city who lived in a multi-million-dollar apartment, who sent somebody $20,000 because they said that they were their grandson and they needed the money for specifically a DUI, believe it or not. Too many people fall for this. Pulls on the emotional strings. Certainly don't trust anything that you hear over the phone anymore. The chief said it too. They can spoof phone numbers. How many people in the room have had their own phone number call them before? A couple, right? I have too. So, I mean, I've had the White House call me. Donald Trump's called me personally. They can make the phone number look like anything, right? So always trust your instincts. Reach out to the person directly. And it doesn't have to just be this. It could be anything, right? It could be any excuse. If somebody's telling you to keep it quiet, keep this a secret, keep it between us, I don't want to get in trouble, trust your instinct. Unfortunately, you may have to break that trust and make sure that it's a real incident and not a scam.
Did you connect to Wi-Fi?
We're getting rare insight this morning into a scam. It targets and steals money from grandparents. Carter Evans sat down with an admitted con artist who reveals how it works. He's in Los Angeles with a CBS News investigation. Carter, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. The scam begins with something most grandparents don't get enough: a phone call from a grandchild, or so the caller says. But it almost always ends with a desperate plea for money. And the criminal you're about to meet used to be on the other end of the line. Shackled in federal custody, this 31-year-old con man is awaiting sentencing in California for his role in what's known as the grandparent scam. Carter. He agreed to let us in on how he did it, but only if we wouldn't reveal his name.
You can make 10 grand sometimes in a day if you do it properly.
Part of an elaborate scheme run out of Canada, he would call senior citizens in the U.S., impersonating a grandchild in distress, begging for cash. Give me an idea of how a typical call would go.
So you just say, hey, how are you? Hi. Hi, Grandma. Hi, Grandpa. I'm under the weather. It's a bad connection. I'm in a little bit of trouble right now. If I tell you, just keep it between us. I'm on vacation. but I got into a little accident, and you know, I was arrested for DUI. You tell them things got out of control, and I need to send me the money.
How many people would fall for this?
1 out of 50, maybe.
It's estimated senior citizens are robbed of roughly $3 billion a year in financial scams. Phone scams are often run outside the U.S., out of boiler rooms like this one busted in Canada last year. And con artists usually buy their victims' personal information online, including age and income.
We target people over the age of 65, mainly, because they're more gullible, they're at home, they're more accessible. Once you get them emotionally involved, then they'll do anything for you, basically.
Doug Shadell is with AARP.
We've had doctors and lawyers fall for this. It doesn't really matter what your educational level is because it triggers something emotional that causes you to act.
I was upset and sort of frantic.
It happened to this 81-year-old grandmother. She was home alone in California last September when her phone rang.
Hello?
The caller said he was her 29-year-old grandson, arrested for driving drunk in North Carolina.
There was a desperation and an urgency in his voice, partly because he said, "Love you."
Did it sound like him?
No, but he said he had a broken nose. I just wanted him to be home with his family. That's all I wanted.
So she immediately sent almost $18,000 to a bank account in North Carolina, thinking it was going to a lawyer. But her grandson wasn't in jail and wasn't in North Carolina. Her money was gone.
Please enter your authorization.
We dialed the number of the person who called her. It's now disconnected.
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed at this time.
You are blinded by emotion, totally blinded. You don't think rationally when this happens. You know, your family comes first.
It's just so cold-hearted and horrifying.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Ellen Lindsay prosecuted the scammer we spoke to.
And the effect on the victims is so great. It's not simply the loss of the money. They feel stupid, they feel gullible, and they have nightmares about it and anxiety and depression.
People are going to want to know what drives a person like you when you know how much pain it's causing people.
I didn't know how much pain this was causing people.
How could you not know?
I thought people, you know, were making $100,000 a year and they would lose a couple thousand here and there.
But that doesn't make it okay.
I mean, people lose money all the time, but it's just,
And in most cases, they never get it back.
What did you do with the money?
What did I do with it? Spent most of it.
I think he recognizes now that it's a despicable thing that he did. And he's doing the right thing in trying to get the word out. He also knows that this will be a factor considered by the judge at his sentencing. But if you ask me, what he's most sorry about is getting caught.
Do you feel remorse?
Of course. Wouldn't you?
It's hard to tell how many senior citizens have been scammed like this because there is no national database to track the grandparent scam, and many grandparents are simply too embarrassed to report the crime to police in the first place. And it's also very hard to catch some of these scammers, Gail, especially when they are operating outside the U.S.
Listen, Carter, we're seeing that the emotion card works when you play it with grandma and grandpa.
We're getting rare insight.
So, obviously disgusting, right? Anybody that would do this to somebody like that, I mean, terrible, terrible. But really the biggest way with the advancement of technology and AI, if you don't have a safe word developed with your family, go home tonight and start working on that. It can be a song lyric, it could be a sentence, it could be anything. But if you don't have something like that already established, you or someone else in the family could become victim of this, but it's one of the easiest ways. You know, don't pick the dog's name that's all over Instagram, that probably has its own Instagram account. People, you know, they already know to look for those names, but these safe words are truly probably the number one deterrent that you could have right now to help defeat this. And right into AI, deep fakes, AI chatbots, voice cloning. Everybody in the room knows who Joe Rogan is, right? One of the biggest podcasters on the planet. I mean, he's sold 1 million products that he's never even touched or held or talked to anybody about. because they're taking all the videos of him and they're having them sell their products by using AI videos of him. I'm sure also with all the political stuff going on in the world right now, I've seen a lot of Hillary Clinton, I've seen a lot of Obama, I've seen a lot of Trump, all over social media right now. You can watch their mouth and the way that they're moving. You can hear the differences in the tones of the voice, but they're using AI all the time. All the time. It's very hard to tell what's real anymore because some of this stuff is getting very, very good. In fact, there's a movie on Netflix with Tom Hanks in it where he spends half of the movie in his 20s. And this movie was filmed this year. You know, it's fascinating stuff. You know, it's certainly helpful, but also the bad guys, they're also using it against us every moment that they can.
So the IRS scams, basically, if you don't get your IRS tax returns done before them, they're more likely going to get your funds back. Just know that you're not going to be receiving a phone call from the IRS. This is the biggest tidbit. And you're not going to get a text message from the IRS, and you're not going to get an email. You're either going to get mail or they're going to be knocking on your door. And if they're knocking on your door, that comes with some paperwork called a warrant. So more than likely, you're not going to get contacted by IRS. Just know that that's going to be also the same parts where you get your text messages and alerts that the IRS says, we're contacting you because you owe us a refund, yada, yada, yada. That is not coming from the IRS. So if you have to think about it or question or say, something's not right, I don't know why, listen to your gut, listen to your instinct. It's not, the IRS is only going to contact you through those two ways.
And they certainly don't accept gift cards as payment over the phone.
Hey, is this the IRS?
Yes, this is IRS office. There is a legal allegation and a lawsuit has been filed against you by the IRS department.
No one is safe from IRS scammers, not even the police.
The total amount of sitting on your name, that is $8,140.
Okay, so are the police looking for me right now? I should be worried about that?
Yes.
Officer Stife of the Midland Police Department in Texas says that he received a call from someone pretending to be the IRS. The person on the phone told the cop that he owed money, and if he didn't pay, he would be arrested.
How do I pay this money so the cops won't come and arrest me? How do I pay you guys?
So you need to rush down to an Apple store.
Can I send a check?
No, we cannot do that. Because the check will not reach our department in 45 minutes.
The phony caller even tried to convince him to get an Apple Card worth the amount, rather than mailing a check.
I'm confused though. When did the IRS start taking Apple Cards? Is that a recent thing?
It is an electronic transaction, so you don't have to ask any question regarding that.
While the video is hysterical, the department wants to remind citizens that the IRS will contact you by mail first before calling, and they'll never ask for an Apple Card.
What's sad is that scammer with that same script probably victimized somebody that day. But yeah, like they said in the previous video and like we talked about earlier, a lot of these scams are occurring out of the country. They're occurring in these boiler rooms, warehouses where they have servers hooked up and they have, 50 to 100 people just sitting in a room all day long, just going away at these scams.
The minute they start threatening you or putting an urgency to your payment, hang up. That's all you really need. They start threatening you. They tell you we're going to come and arrest you. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, Apple Cards, any type of gift cards. Government does not accept payments via any of those. So just understand that if they start telling you, you can go ahead, go buy some gift cards real quick, and then text us a picture, and your payment's going to be fine, and then you're good to go, and you're safe again, and you're good with the IRS, they're happy. Well, then what's going to happen is you do that, your information's already now with them, and you're going to have another bad guy now call you and try to pull off the same scam until you can figure it out. And now they're moving to crypto as well for payment.
Right, and some of the biggest scams we're seeing now that we're taking cases on are cryptocurrency scams that are happening at the ATM machines that accept cryptocurrencies. So we have scammers that are looking up where these ATM machines are. They're calling people in those cities in the surrounding area, and they're having them drive towards these locations and start purchasing cryptocurrency out of an ATM machine. Currently, there's one in Lake Park, where several people in the city of Palm Beach Gardens, unfortunately, have fallen victim to that scam. Please, if somebody's calling you over the phone and asking you to go to an ATM machine to buy cryptocurrency, that should have been the red flag already. But let's make sure that we're not falling into these things. The amount of urgency they can put on it doesn't matter. We live in a time now where if you don't have to answer the phone for a number you don't know, don't do it. The moment you answer that phone number, you go from a list, right? So the bad guys are putting your information on the dark web, and let's say it's 100,000 phone numbers, names, addresses, and social security numbers. All they do is they hook up a machine and they auto dial all these numbers. The ones that answer, they now take that list, let's say half of them, let's say 50,000 answer, they're now reselling that information for more money because you're somebody in the year 2025 who's answering the phone for a number they don't know. And then they're going to continue calling. So I don't know if you've ever noticed, but you answer one, typically in the next few weeks, you're going to get 4 or 5 more. If you're one that gets on the phone and you start talking, you go to a different list, an even more valuable list. And if you seem even the most bit interested in what they have to say, you are a high value target. You are going to the most expensive list on the dark web because you're somebody that might actually fall for it because you sit there and you listen to what they're talking about. That is a very, very bad list to be on, as you can imagine. The calls are just going to keep coming in. One of the number one questions we get after one of these is, what if I hit the button on the side of my phone to silence the call or drop the call? I would highly suggest not doing that. That shows that there's activity or life on the other side of the line, and your information could be passed on to that next list. So just let it ring entirely. Don't engage. There's also somebody in the room that always likes to say, you know what, I like to answer the phone because I like to give them a bunch of crap and I make them sit on the line with me for the next 30 minutes while I interrogate them about something. These are people that don't have anything to lose, right? And they're very good at what they do on the technical side and the background, navigating the dark web, using technology to their advantage in ways that we would never even know where to start, right? Don't antagonize the person that has nothing to lose. That they can make your life very difficult, more so than it already is. Your best bet is just don't answer the phone. If you don't know the number, let them leave a message. Social media. I'm sure, as we all know, social media is always listening. We could be talking about a furniture sale at City Furniture right now, and by the time we get home, Facebook is going to pop up an ad that says City Furniture's 4th of July sales coming up, right? A lot of the social media platforms, when you download them originally, a lot of the privacy settings are left open, and they do that because they want to get paid, right? They want those ads, they want that data, they want to share your information. So if you have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, any of them, make sure you're going through and checking through those privacy settings and making sure that information is not being sent out and that everything is secured and locked down, right? We don't want our family photos or videos that we take that we're putting on social media, even if we think only family's looking at them. If the bad guy gets a hold of them and they create an AI video out of it because we've given them all the material that they need, now we're leading to other problems, right? I would highly suggest making sure all of your privacy is completely locked down, that nobody can look at your social media sites other than you, your family, or people you designate. And if you get weird messages, obviously, from anybody like that, report it to the social media platform and let them know so they can deactivate those accounts. Oversharing, again, with the selfie of the driver's license right in the driveway, we certainly don't want to do things like that. This is certainly more targeted to the younger generation, where we've had numerous crimes we've solved because they'll leave their location on Snapchat and we know where they are at any moment. So when they commit a crime and their friend comes up and confesses and doesn't want to be a part of it, and we can walk right to the house and know which corner of the house that they're currently sitting in, right? Because for whatever reason, everybody thinks they're going to be the next influencer. So we have 16-year-old kids out here with hundreds of thousands of followers. It's just a different age, a different thing kids are doing, but the oversharing, it's just making it so much easier to become the victim of ID theft. Geotagging, sometimes we take photos and there's data that's attached to those photos. So if we're posting it on social media and we haven't gone through those settings to make sure that all these things are disabled, somebody might be able to know exactly where we are, exactly where we live, just by the data that's attached to the photo. So make sure when you're going through, we're turning all those features off, because we don't want to give the bad guy any more information than they already have on us. Online dating scams, very similar to the grandparents scam. They're using emotion. They're creating sense of urgency to get people to react, to send money, to do things they typically wouldn't do. We typically wouldn't walk down the street and hand somebody $20,000 we don't know, right? But we have it all the time where people are sending people money they've never met. They just keep getting excuses on how their car's broken down, or they're being deployed into the military and they need $10,000 to get their affairs in order before they leave, and they promise they're going to come visit you.
They're stuck on the oil rig.
Right.
They're stuck on an oil rig. They found love on the internet, and babe, I can't make it home. Can you send me some money? And then as soon as I get off this job, I'll come back and we can live happily ever after. And they're out their life savings for love.
Yeah, there's entire Instagram accounts dedicated right now to showing other people how to catfish adults, especially men over the age of 40, into sending them money. So we have 17 and 18-year-old boys who are just taking random women's photos online, using them as their own, and talking to grown men into sending them money in lieu of these pictures. And then sometimes they're lucky enough to get a picture back from said gentleman, and then they use it as blackmail against them. Say, you know, I'm going to call your place of business. I already have your email list. I have all of your contacts in your phone. I'm going to send this image out unless you pay me. Can't fall for things like that. If you know anybody, and that's kind of falling back on the victimization of our seniors, if you know anybody that's, you know, been talking about a significant other in their life that you've never met and that you know they've never met, maybe sit down and talk with them. Make sure that they're not falling for something like this. I'm currently working with somebody in the city right now who doesn't want to report it. Her father, who is of sound mind, has already sent $25,000 to a person that he has never met. After 40 years, they're now divorced. Him and his wife are divorced, and it all started from a text that said, "It was great meeting you today." A random text message. And he fell for it and said, "I don't know who this is. Identify yourself. Oh, it's Ashley or whoever. We met earlier this morning. Don't you remember me?" And that's all it took.
Yeah, I got a message, text message, "Hey, are we still meeting for dinner tonight?" ? And if I know I don't have any dinner plans with anybody and the number's coming in from an unknown number that is not saved in my phone, that's a scam. So don't even give it time of day. Don't even entertain it. You know, listen, I know what you're up to type of information. Just delete, report, and move on.
So cyber stalking. So we have the scammer repeatedly calling us. For whatever reason, we're answering the phone and we're engaging with this person. We're not sending them money, and they're getting angry about it. So now they're calling constantly. They're sending us letters in the mail. They're sending us emails. They're using threatening language. Just because you didn't send them any money doesn't necessarily mean that you're not the victim of something. So cyber stalking, the engage in course of conduct to communicate or cause or to be communicated directly or indirectly, words, images, language, by through use of electronic mail or electronic communication directed or pertaining to a specific person. It's a mouthful, but that's something else that we can work with, hopefully if they're in the country. So just because you didn't send any money doesn't mean that you just have to sit back and take harassment. You can report it. If there is a lead, we will certainly work it. Defraud. Anybody familiar with this new trend going on? Yep. So criminals are targeting Floridians, especially here in the Palm Beach County and Dade areas. If your home is over $1 million and paid off, you're certainly at that higher target level. And what they're doing is they're submitting quitclaim deeds. $10, they're forging the stamps, they're forging and making up the law firms, and they're sending in this paperwork, and we're none the wiser. And now all of a sudden the bad guy's got a quitclaim deed that says that they're a homeowner on this home. Right now I think we're working 4 or 5 of these cases in Palm Beach Gardens. Please take note of it. On the Palm Beach Clerk website, they have set up a property fraud alert. That is also on that sheet of paper we handed out. It is on the right side in that white box. It's a free service. If you live in Palm Beach County, please sign up on it. All you do is put your personal pertinent information in there, and you'll get an alert anytime somebody adds something in your name to your house. Whereas before, there was nothing really in place. So you could submit a quitclaim deed and be none the wiser.
This is all being done mostly electronically prior to a human actually reviewing everything. So understand that a lot of this is getting approved behind, through the computers and stuff like that before it's actually looked at. And by the time it's caught, now we got to go backwards and prove you are who you are. And, everything is looking really good because now they can find your signatures anywhere and everything's on the dark web so they can mimic exactly who you are and proceed forward with this stuff.
If you are the victim of this or know somebody, please have them report it to their local jurisdiction immediately. They're probably also going to need to hire an attorney and start some type of civil process on the back end. But the sooner they start working on it, the better. As of right now, the last time I talked to one of our detectives, he said that they haven't done anything with these homes, that they're just kind of collecting them. It's his personal opinion that they're probably going to wait and strike all at once. And they're probably going to pull out equity loans or something like that on the homes. So just be cautious of those. If you haven't looked in a while and your home is paid off and you meet that criteria, go online and check and see if there's anything that's been filed in your name or against your home. So to wrap everything up, some of this sounds really redundant. Those of us in government have probably heard all of these topics way too often, but change your passwords often. A good time to do it is especially, when you receive a data breach letter in the mail. You never really know what that's tied to, right? The best option is to go online and change every password you can possibly think of. If you don't use two-factor authentication like Microsoft Authenticator, start using it. Add those accounts in there. If you work for a business or a government where you have to have this anyway for your computer at work, add your personal emails in there too. Why not, right? You already have the app. You've already taken the extra step. You might as well use it to its full advantage. Most banks allow you to add free spending alerts on your account. If you're one of those that you typically don't buy anything over a certain price point, set an alert at that price point. That way at least you're getting notified when that money's being spent. We've heard this for a really long time, but shred documents before we put them in the garbage can. Avoid clicking on links, texts, messages. If you have a relative in a country that you've never visited who passed away and there's $5 million sitting there for you and all you need to do is send them $100,000 to release it, if it sounds too good to be true, probably is, right? Shop only on secure websites. Look at the address bar at the top. There is a lot of dropship companies out there, a lot of them that aren't very legitimate. They take images and they take web links from all other places. Anybody can start a website for as little as free trial to $5 a month, right? Look at the address bar. Make sure it says HTTPS. Look for the padlock symbol before entering payment information to show that the website is using encryption. If you don't ever purchase anything and need to run credit checks, a really simple and free thing to do is just to call all 3 credit bureaus and freeze your credit. My wife does this, and she often forgets until she sees that credit card with no interest for 20 months and finds out that she can't apply for it, but that means the bad guy can't apply for anything either, right? Very simple, very easy to do, and you can call them and you can remove it at any time. And we're going to go back to limiting our personal information on the internet. We certainly don't want to give the bad guy any more information than they already have on us. If we have antivirus software, especially the good ones that we're paying a lot of money every month for, make sure you're updating it. Make sure that it's current and that everything is okay with it. Check your financial statements regularly. We used to say check your checkbook, right? And balance it against your account. Make sure everything looks okay. Just log in. And especially, we see a lot on this end for vehicle burglaries, but typically the first thing that's done is the criminal element will take your credit card and go to the nearest gas station and buy a soda. So you'll see that first $2.50 charge, and then all of a sudden, wham, there goes the $10,000 Apple Store charge. But we're not catching those things, right? We don't even look for those small charges, but even the small charges matter. If you didn't go to that 7-Eleven, call and lock down that card and that account. So cryptocurrency has been around for a really long time, if you didn't know. Early 2000s, you could buy a VPN, a virtual private network, and pay with cryptocurrency so that you could download illegal music off of Napster and Morpheus and all those, and no one would know who's paying for it. Crypto is still used as anonymous payment, especially on the dark web. So if somebody's telling that you have to pay in cryptocurrency, chances are it's a scam. Again, don't send personal checks in the mail. If it's somebody's birthday out of state and you typically throw a check inside of a card and mail it, a better option might be to just Zelle that person money and say, hey, would you mind putting cash in the birthday card when it gets there? Try not to answer numbers you don't recognize. If you're one of the unfortunate ones where you have to answer numbers, immediately hang up. Don't engage. There's no winning situation in it for you. Don't antagonize these bad guys that have nothing to lose. And if you're at the gas pump, we would always suggest looking for the tap to pay option. That way you're skipping the whole process of even putting in a zip code. We still find skimmers inside of gas pumps, believe it or not. And they're more advanced than ever. There's no coming up to the outside and wiggling the card reader to see if there's a fake overlay. The bad guys now just take a razor blade, they cut that little security tape, they open it up while the clerk's inside reading a magazine or playing on their phone, and they're plugging in a device that goes right into the card reader. And in many cases, this card reader has Bluetooth, Wi-Fi capabilities, so they'll just sit in the back of the parking lot or they'll leave it for a few months and come back and just download all that data, and they'll leave it in there for as long as it'll make it. So always use a credit card. It's not your money. You're not the victim. If you use your debit card and you're the victim, it's going to feel like the bank is doing everything in their power to make sure that that was not you at the gas pump. And sometimes it can take weeks, if not months, to get your money back. In most cases, if it's your Discover credit card, Discover is going to reimburse you right then in that moment, send you a new card in the mail. And guess what? If everything were to go through with prosecution, they're the ones that get to fight it. It was their money, right? So never use a debit card at a gas pump if you can help it.
Yeah, but I'm going to after this slide because that's it.
I was going to say, you wanted to cover?
So I'm going to cover something only because it's a current trend right now. How many of you guys have received an email from Microsoft stating that there's an issue with your subscription or it's time to renew? Currently, we have a handful of cases right now where our victims are getting a pop-up while they're on the computer that Microsoft has been hacked and they need to contact us. Or they receive an email from Microsoft saying that your system, that your subscription needs to be renewed and contact us. Currently we have, this is just one case that we just got this week, and I have 3 more on my desk along with another fraud detective. This gentleman was frauded out $35,000 in cash, all from a pop-up on his computer stating that his Microsoft account has been expired. From there, he said he was told that he had a warrant out for him for a $530,000 wire fraud that he's being investigated for. This is where they touch on the heart and the emotional string. So now they're threatening him, thinking that he's got a warrant out for his arrest out of New York. He's then told to contact this number to clear up any means. They contact FTC for him. So he's online with Microsoft, who then transfers him to FTC. Well, FTC's Federal Trade Commission is a government agency. You're not going to go from Microsoft to FTC to now his Truist Bank. So they were able to get him to communicate through Microsoft to FTC into his bank, where they were able to convince him to go to a PNC bank, cash withdrawal $10,000. Your banker at the teller will question you what's this for? They've already told you, don't answer any questions, just keep me on the phone, tell them it's none of their business, don't answer any of their questions, take the money out. So he does that. He takes out his $10,000 in cash because he's not allowed anymore. Then he's directed to go to another bank where he then withdraws another $25,000 in cash. Okay? So now he's got $35,000 in cash that's all due for a Microsoft link. Then from there, he was told that an agent will come by, an officer will come by and pick up the money to put $35,000 in cash into a shoebox and leave it outside his door for pickup. And that happened. Some silver Hyundai comes by his house. They give him a code name. They hand over the $35,000 inside a shoebox, and his Microsoft account is now satisfied. This is just one. I have one right now. It's another one that's for $53,000 where it was a link. He clicked on the email. It goes from the email link to withdraw some cash. We cannot trace cash. You go to the ATM or you go to the bank yourself, you withdraw the money, and you don't have a bad guy or anybody present with you. I have no video surveillance of this, okay? So it's just you allowed to withdraw your money. He then takes that money, he buys some gift cards because that's how the bad guy wants payment. What they do is they have you take a photo of the gift card numbers and you text it to a number, and that money is now gone for their payment. That number is no longer good anymore. On top of that, he then had to go to this famous ATM crypto machine that we have off of Northlake and A1A at Sunoco. They have a Bitcoin ATM machine. He then deposits $50,000 in cash into this cryptocurrency ATM machine, which now that money is often gone to another country. All within one day of pressing him from 9 to 4. He's now out $53,000. So if you don't have any of these, or you're like, I don't have Microsoft, or I don't need to update a subscription, just be cautious. Again, like he stated earlier, they're using their same logos, they're using their same phone numbers, they're using a lot of the same things that look like these reputable websites, but they're not, okay? So just like that, this gentleman's out $35,000. I have another one out with $53,000. Gift card money is gone. Cryptocurrency, until it's federally backed, there's no way for law enforcement to reverse that and get that back to you. Okay? And if you're the only one that's going to the ATM machine or going inside your bank and withdrawing this cash, I don't have a bad guy that's with you doing it. So images that I would get for facial recognition or tracing, it's you taking out your own money. That doesn't lead us as investigators of anything else. And unfortunately, with this one victim, all he had was a gray sedan. That's my only lead, is a gray sedan. And you're out $53,000 of your hard-earned money. So don't be quick to click on these things and read it. If you realize I don't have anything with Microsoft, just delete and move on. They'll pull at your heartstrings really, really quick. And just besides that, don't put checks in the mail anymore, please. Yeah. I mean, my phone's been blowing up since we've started this presentation. A lot of them have been scams and phone calls. Quick questions. I know we're getting behind. Yes?
Just one comment about the deed. When you do that with the appraisal, make sure you have to, not if you have your first and middle and last name in regard to the deed situation. When you go to the appraiser, it works, but what they tell you to do is don't use just your first and last name. Register it with your first and last name, register it with your first and middle and last name, register it with your first name and middle initial and last name. Because that way, if anybody tries to come under any of those, then you'll be notified. If you just put it under one way, then that's the only way. So my name is, my first and last. Well, if someone puts my middle name in, I won't be notified.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if you have an incident and you want to report it, question one is, how do you report it? Second question is, I probably had 10 of these in the last whatever, never lost any money. One was so upsetting they wanted a crypto payment. I spent an hour and a half reporting it to the FBI online. But the question is, can you spend any time actually delving into it when the citizen hasn't lost anything?
So normally what we would do is once you've been a victim of a case, we'd ask you to call your local law enforcement agency, either have an officer come to your residence, or you can go to the
City of Palm Beach Gardens, say if that was your local residence, and report there with us. Then from there, we ask you a bunch of questions about what we can to see if we can track it. I will be completely honest with you, a lot of this stuff is going overseas. I have jurisdiction for Palm Beach Gardens and Palm Beach Gardens only. Yes, we do report to the FBI as well, and if there's a certain dollar amount, they will pick it up. That dollar amount has to be extremely large for the FBI to pick it up. For the most part, if you don't fall for the scams, there's nothing for us to do. Just delete it, just move on with life, because you're getting them, I'm getting them, we're all getting them. So just the best thing you can do is just delete it and move on. But we're already highly aware. It keeps us really busy, the amount of frauds that come through. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
To add to your list, Wall Street Journal last week said, do not click on unsubscribe. You know, these things say unsubscribe. They said it's a terrible thing to do. Secondly, I know in Fort Lauderdale and Orlando, where the cities have put in parking meters and you click on the QR code, you take a picture, the bad guys are going around and superimposing other QR codes. So in a way, we got cities that are aiding and abetting the bad guys, and you don't know. So you've given.
They're just getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And honestly, our technology of investigating is behind on a lot. We do have a lot of resources, and we do have a lot of other agencies, federal agencies, that do help us with these cases. But the money moves extremely fast, and if it's not another victim that's being victimized by you, it's going overseas and it's gone. Thank you.
Very much.
Okay. Now I'd like to introduce our state attorney, Alexcia Cox, and her team. They work very well with us, but many times these cases are tough. It's tough to get the identity of the suspect and things like that. And she now, with her team, is going to explain how sometimes we do get people arrested and prosecuted.
Thanks, Chief. All right, good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today to sort of take the baton from law enforcement on the investigative side to now what happens when the cases hopefully make it to our office. And they make it to our office when law enforcement has determined that there's probable cause that a crime was committed, and they can at least identify, who the person is that committed the crime. Now, we have some other information in here as well in our presentation to discuss when those folks are not ascertainable, the suspect, the person who took the money or defrauded someone. But one thing I wanted to talk about just very quickly first is victimization, and I think it was touched on in your presentation, and that is to just make sure that if by chance you or someone that has been contacted and you what we call fall for it, right? I think oftentimes there's a stigma attached to it, and it makes people not really want to engage with law enforcement, not want to report it, not want to tell anybody because you feel as though maybe you're embarrassed or you can't believe that you fell for the scam that you don't think anyone else might have fallen for. These are crimes, okay? If someone falls for it, you are a victim, and you have to understand that people are working almost if you go to the gym every day, and I practice for a boxing match against you, and for 12 months I'm working all my muscles, I have big ones here, and I then get in the ring with you, I'm going to beat you. And I don't care how, great you are, but I'm working hard at it. I'm actually building up my strength, my stamina, all those things. I'm going to beat you. And so that's what these people are doing each and every day, day in and day out. They are working an 8-hour job, if you will, learning how to scam people. So understand that it's not anything about you or anything that you should take and internalize about not being smarter. I can't believe I fell for that. That's what they do. And I think it's really important from our lens for you to understand that it is a victim crime. You are victims if you fall victim to some of these fraudulent activities. And we want to make sure that we stress that from the prosecution angle. I have with me today Stacey Barra, and I want you to also get to know her. Stacey is my new deputy chief assistant, and she is over what I have coined my special prosecutions unit. Now, we have homicide units. We have units focusing now on robbery, violent repeat offenders, what do we have? Gangs, guns, and drug trafficking unit. These are some of the new units that we've started under my administration. But I also wanted a special prosecutions unit to handle those cases that needed some extra attention. And so what we have under special prosecutions are animal cruelty, environmental crimes, property deed fraud task force, which you heard a little bit about with property deed fraud, sober homes and our state attorney's addiction recovery task force, cyber crimes, and elder crimes. And Stacey Barra is leading that work and helping me to make sure that I'm keeping our seniors safe as well as tackling cyber crimes. And so I want to get started with the presentation. Some of it was a little redundant, we realized, so we're going to skip through a lot of it, but if there's questions that you have, please let us know, and we want to make sure you leave here informed and able to pass this information on to your neighbors. Okay, so let's get started. This right here, this slide represents current trends that you should know about nationally. And so what it suggests is that in 2024, nationally, $16.6 billion based on all of these trends were lost. These were losses in the United States in 2024. And there were almost, I guess, close to 900,000 total complaints in 2024. And the top trends were investment frauds, business email compromise, romance fraud, which we heard about, tech support, government bank impersonation, check fraud, phishing scams, and data breach. And Stacey, you want to come over, or do you have a microphone? If not, I can give you this one.
Alexcia, right there on the table.
Oh, I have that one, so you can have this one. Okay.
And just something important to note is that although this is nationally, Florida ranked, unfortunately, 2 in both. We ranked number 2 in losses and number 2 in complaints. So Florida is definitely one of the high targets because they're getting the high rewards for it. So the opportunity that we have here with each of you to share this and for it to be recorded and for each of you to bring it to your respective people plays everything in a role in terms of getting it to hopefully be able to reduce. And so again, just with the trends, new one, there's a lot of gold and also silver now. They're trying to get people to send their gold and their silver, indicating that the prices have increased. So they're getting people to go through their jewelry boxes and to clean themselves out, say that they will send it, get it sent to them. We're going to get it weighed and we'll send you back the money, and they're not getting anything sent back. So you saw the toll scams, and again, these are being run through call centers. So they are extremely sophisticated, and it's certainly something that they are well in advance of where we are in terms of investigating and prosecution. And so they have, for example, in Myanmar, they have within a year, they've been able to put up 3 Las Vegases just in terms of the money that they have scammed across the world. And so they've got their own construction companies where they're putting up these sites where they're doing human trafficking, as well as people who are involved in the fraud. So they're hitting it from all angles and all hours of the night. So each time zone has been appropriated for.
Yeah, and one thing to note is to understand that a lot of this money isn't just people wanting to necessarily buy big homes, and I mean, they do that too, but a lot of it is to fund other criminal, other crimes, other criminal enterprises. And so they're using money that they get fraudulently to fund crime throughout the world.
And what you can do is to find out the current trends if you're interested in what's going on. This is the area right here. Just put in the zip code where we are today. And if you go to aarp.org and you look for scam tracking map, you can put in your zip code and it will show you the complaints that have been registered in real time in terms of your area. And so some of the ones that you'll see here again are the government imposter scams, talking about being with the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles, as well as impersonating celebrities. Why they think Eric Clapton or Keanu Reeves would need money, or why they're interested in you. There was somebody who was absolutely convinced that they were in a dating relationship with Keanu Reeves and lost an incredible amount of money. And again, it is not necessarily because of that they were stupid in terms of that's what they feel. It's just they prey specifically on people who are lonely and people who just want to be talked to and would pay anything to continue talking to someone. So this is what's going on in your area right here. Just a bit touching on the mail fraud has already been discussed, so we will just go right through that quickly. This was a video to talk about one of the organizations that we work together with law enforcement to take down. And so what we'll do is we'll just talk to you about what that looks like. So what happens now when you hear that you have all of these mailboxes being broken into? What can be done on the prosecution side of the house? So the answer is it depends. It depends on what the person was caught with. And so that's what we have to look at. So the arrow keys that were discussed, actually some of the arrow keys that were being used were good from Broward all the way up to the Treasure Coast. One key could open up boxes in several different counties. And so, so we do have post offices trying to work on something different, but right now that's what they have. And so just getting access to that key becomes, you can have access to millions of dollars. And so, but just being in possession of a key is a federal crime. There's nothing that we can do on the state side, but they can on the federal side. So being in possession of that key is a federal crime in and of itself. So what happened was is different operations were going on to try to figure out how we can tackle this problem in Palm Beach County. So working with local businesses, cameras were set up. And so we have the cameras set up, and now we see the individuals stealing the mail. But now what crime is that? It's a misdemeanor. It is a second-degree misdemeanor is all that we can do because we don't know what they've stolen. We see them taking mail, but we don't know what the value of that is. And in terms of a state charge, we have to know what the value is. So, all right, so that wasn't going to do it. So then now what can we do? So then what about when we're seeing them, they set up operations where they would see them and then they would stop them. So now what happens if they get caught possessing unopened mail? Well, it depends. Because now you can have anywhere from a petty theft because it's not open and we don't know the value of the mail, to now we have unlawful possession of PII, which is your personal identifying information. Well, if you have more than 4 items of personal identifying information, like 4, or let's do 4 or less. If you have 4 or less, it's still just a misdemeanor. It got us up to a first-degree misdemeanor, but it's only a misdemeanor. We don't get to a felony until you're in possession of 5 or more pieces of mail, meaning 5 different individuals' names, will we get to a felony. So what about if it's opened mail? So now we can start assessing value. So now, depending upon what the value of the checks are, or if there's gift cards or money that's in there, will determine what type of felony. And then again, you have the possession of the personal, just being in possession of somebody's personal identifying information. And so now you get to, though, we can also, if we get an actual victim to come in, we can get possession with intent to fraudulently use. And so let's talk a little bit about the difference between the two. Other than the one has an additional 5, they both similarly have the identification of PII the same. What we're really looking at is your bank account numbers, the credit cards, the mail. Exactly what law enforcement, explained to you is personal identifying information is to one person alone. The one over to the right, 817.568, that actually expands it a little bit further. It includes more in the definition of PII. But where you will really see your differences is in whether or not you have a victim who is going to testify, or if you don't have a victim who's going to testify. So the one right here on your, which would be to your left, is going to be the one where it's dependent upon how much you have, how much you stop somebody with. And so this, if you stop somebody and you see that they've got a whole, and this has happened, they have a whole bag of mail in their possession, and you can break it down and you see that there is more than 5. But as law enforcement and the prosecution, they're going to be like, do I really need to call every single victim? Because some of these, with the mail, depending upon where you're getting it, It's all across the country. And how do we get a live victim to say, yes, I'm going to testify and I'm going to come to Florida to testify in this case? It's not very easy. And so what we have now is a crime that if there's more than 5, we have a felony without having an actual victim, but we get the inference. So being in possession of 5 or more, we get an inference that it was without authorization. But you go over to the other side, 1 victim will get you a felony. And so that starts adding up. And if you get 1 victim that happens to have a check for over $5,000, that's a 3-year minimum mandatory prison sentence. And if it happens to be $50,000, that's a 5-year minimum mandatory prison sentence. So the law definitely distinguishes between whether or not you have an actual victim that's going to come in and say, yes, that is my personal identifying information, and I did not give consent for that person, who I don't even know, to have had my personal identifying information. But that's where it becomes important that we actually have to have a witness come in. And a lot of times they're like, I got my money back from the bank. I don't want to be bothered with it. And so we're stuck with what can we do on our end. And so the law limits us in terms of what we can do. So a lot of times when people hear, I don't understand. They had all this mail. They had all this PII. How is it that they're only getting X? Well, it's because it depends on whether or not we have a witness who's going to come forward or not. Money mules. So money mules is where, now what happens when they get all of this banking information, now they've got to, as they talked about, they got to wash the checks and they got to get somebody to deposit it for them. Big scams are being used in terms of even at your local colleges. You go into local, so it's not just the elderly who are getting hit, it is our young, students as well, that they're poor college students, would love to make a quick buck, and so they're being told that, hey, you have a bank account, you want to make money real fast, I don't have a bank account, my account's been frozen, whatever reason they want to give, you can cash these checks and you can, make some money. Well, they're definitely being used for a crime. They're part of a crime. But now what can we do with that? Well, we now have to prove intent. And so what case law tells us is that just because somebody took a check that was fraudulent, it was stolen out of the mail, and they deposited it into their bank account, and that's where, again, there's misunderstanding. Well, that person didn't have permission to deposit my check. It's a fraudulent check. Well, we have to prove that the person who deposited it knew it was fraudulent. Not just that a fraudulent check appeared in their bank account, that they actually knew. Because in this scenario, it was a roommate who had given the fraudulent check and basically saying that, hey, can you go ahead and cash this for me? So the person's thinking, they have no reason to think that it's fraudulent. They're depositing it, putting it into their account, and so they got arrested. And they're like, wait a minute, I had no idea. And sometimes we know, we all know that they were involved, but there's a proof issue. We have to prove it. And so we can say that, how could they possibly have thought that this check, was legitimate? Well, sometimes people get paid in checks and they sign it over. Hey, I got paid for this because they owed me money for services, and here, I'm going to sign it over to you.
And
So,
let me explain one thing. So where this is important for you all is that, I'll give you an example. A young college kid that I know, someone approached him and said, hey, I have a money order. I'm not able to cash it. I don't have an account. It's $500. I'll give you 50 or 100 of it if you'll just cash it because I really need the money. Can you help? So you're, on your last box of ramen noodles and you're like, hey, this sounds pretty good. I can make a quick buck to go and get something nice to eat. They'll do it. And even though the person who actually deposited the fraudulent item, the money order or the check, that person is just as much a victim, because sometimes it goes against their own account, which this person's account came up negative, but you as the person who it was your check, you're angry because maybe the only person that we can actually catch and know their identity is the person that deposited it. So when Stacy or someone from my office has to call you and say, well, we're not able to prosecute that person because they weren't, we can't prove that they intended to commit fraud when they did this. They were just as much a victim or unsuspecting as anyone else would be. And that to the public may not be something that you can understand. And so that's why we're making this distinction, so that if that person is the person identified by you or by your bank or by law enforcement, there might be some issue with us being able to prosecute them.
And so the same thing in terms of the students, you're seeing that with the romance scams. And unfortunately, I've seen so many come across my desk where law enforcement was able to trace it to the deposit went into this person's account. And then they want to charge that person. And then the question's like, okay, well, how do we know that, how do we prove that they knew it was fraudulent? And then we're having more conversations, and then it turns out, well, this is somebody that, loves me, and I've been involved in this, millionaire matchmaker, match with this person for months and months, and they said that they really needed to get this money to come and visit me, but their bank account has been, frozen for what have you reasons, and they told me that their friend was going to send me money, and, for me to send the friend money back, but to keep some money and then send it to him so that he can come. And so it happens, unfortunately, daily. And again, it's one of those circumstances that just because we know where the check lands, that doesn't mean we know exactly who's all involved in the fraud.
And most often, fraud requires intent, some type of intent. And intent is not always easy to prove. Law enforcement, their burden when they arrest someone is probable cause. When we get a case and we're deciding whether or not we have enough to go forward, our burden is much higher, our threshold is much higher, and that is beyond a reasonable doubt. So we have to be able to say in good faith that we can prove every element of the charge, including that intent, beyond a reasonable doubt. And if we can't, or if we struggle in that area, then it might be, although we know who it is, we know what they did, we still may not have enough to file charges.
And so what can we do? So with all of that, what we did was partnering with law enforcement, we were able to put together a racketeering charge. And so through all the different investigations of finding who the money mules were and getting some folks to cooperate with us, setting up those cameras and putting, different law enforcement techniques together, we were able to say, well, you know what? If we can prove that this is a criminal enterprise, and we saw them, they all had one purpose. It was a group, and what their purpose was is to steal the mail and then figure out ways to get it cashed. And so petty theft, although they were two, second-degree misdemeanors, two of them committed with an enterprise makes up a racketeering predicate incident. So we actually charged those individuals that you saw stealing the mail, we charged that group with racketeering, and so they are currently facing those charges, and majority of them are still in custody now. And so although we are limited in a lot of areas, what we do well is we work together with law enforcement and we try to figure a way with the tools that we have, how can we continue to be innovative and continue to figure out how to tackle these problems that are in Palm Beach County. And so that's what we did, and we worked together, and so we will continue to do so. It takes longer. It took us a year to put it together, but we put it together and we made a difference in terms of certainly the area where they were hitting. And so at least, one of our issues was we've got to stop the bleeding. We've got to figure out a way to get this to stop, but also sending that message of, you think it's a misdemeanor, but it can now be a first-degree felony, punishable up to 30 years in prison.
And we're going to have to breeze through some of the rest of this due to time, but it should be pretty quick.
Yeah, and so this was already hit on of, basically who you think you're talking to and who you're actually talking to. So using AI, they have these phones set up, and all they are is just randomly reaching out to anybody until they can get a live person to respond to that, that one text of, hey, we were going to have dinner.
This is like a call center with a bunch of phones that are routed through to AI that calls people, texts people at random. And so you think you're speaking to an actual person when that's really who you're communicating with.
And so we talked about it, you know, and then you've also heard about it in the presentation before, is that what you hear is a lot of these scammers are what has been defined as unattainable. And what that means is they're in another country, they're hiding behind fake identities, because now you can set up bank accounts in banking financial institutions online. You don't need to be a real person to show any IDs or anything like that. All of it can be online. Same thing with your cryptocurrency, all online. So what happens when, through law enforcement techniques, we're unable to basically put our hands on somebody?
This was another video, but we'll skip past it.
So this goes back to the same thing with the mail. Like, what can we do? We can get creative and we can figure out what we can do. And so maybe we aren't able to make an arrest, but what we can now do is move to recovery. So our primary goal then is, if we can't arrest the person and hold them responsible, then we want to move to an area of how can we get money back into the hands of our victims. And so that's what we've decided to try to figure out a way to do. What we started with is using law enforcement and using search warrants. And so where we're evolving with this is that we now have, through our state attorney, and is taking it important and recognizes the seriousness of this, has dedicated a unit to cybercrimes. Same thing with the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office has now just paid for 6 licenses to be able to track and trace cybercrimes, where they want to employ that out with all agencies. So they're going to work with Gardens, they're going to work with Boca, they're going to work with all different agencies to understand that if you hear that crypto was taken, don't necessarily think that, okay, yeah, it's gone, it's out there in the ether and we're never getting it back. It all becomes a matter of call PBSO, call their cybercrime team immediately so they can begin to track and trace. Because if $50,000 has been stolen from a victim, they may be able to track and trace, and if they can find $30,000, we can get it back. But it's only if we act quickly. And so, and part of teaming up. Because again, before we have the search warrants, it doesn't work if we can't find where the money is. So the faster we can get it reported, the faster we can track it down. Here was a case that Jupiter PD sent it to our office for a search warrant, and was a victim who fell victim to the fact of a pop-up on their computer that there was malware that was found. And so through that, lost their money. And so, but we were able, Jupiter was able to work with PBSO and was able to track and trace and find money in that wallet. And so what we were going to do is use the search warrant to reach out to Binance.com, which is a platform for crypto, and to get that money from their wallet into the sheriff's office wallet so that it can get back into the hands of the victim. So it was successful, we were able to do it, but here's the problem. Once you use a search warrant, the search warrants are used for obtaining evidence for a criminal case. Well, we're not going to be able to put our hands on the defendant because they're in India. And so we don't have jurisdiction to get them back. So now it goes to the victims to maneuver through the civil system and create a civil lawsuit to get another order to get it back from law enforcement. Because the search warrant says that the law enforcement agency is to seize it until further order of the court. So another order needs to be received from the court, and that's put into the hands of the victim to go back and try to fight to get their own money back. It's not a great system, but it's the system we have. So now what do we have? We started trying to figure out other ways that we can do this, because we recognize that, sure, not only are elderly people the victim of cybercrimes and these frauds, and, you know, sure, our younger people may not, you know, may be able to go through the civil system. It's not fun, it's not easy, but certainly for our vulnerable adults and our elderly, it can be impossible. And so what do we do in those circumstances where we're trying to, you know, have people who are elderly maneuver through the civil system? That doesn't really work. So we started partnering with different law enforcement agencies, as well as Legal Aid Society and local law firms, and come together in a coalition, which is Coalition Against Abuse of Vulnerable Adults, CAVA, which is hosted by the State Attorney's Office, and we meet monthly. And we get all these different agencies together who work with our vulnerable adults to figure out what can we do. And part of that, what is something that's really exciting to be able to report, is that the governor just this past Friday signed an amendment to the injunction against exploitation. And what this means is there is an injunction if there is an elderly person who has been exploited, meaning they have been the victim of a crime, whether it is from a caretaker to a POA, or there is a second exploitation statute, and if they were just intimidated or if they were deceived, which are a lot of your romance scams and a lot of, you know, these different conversations that we've been talking about, is you can file this petition. And what could take days to get a warrant written up and get to the judge, this, through the help that we're partnering with, or, you know, being able to recommend them to go to the Legal Aid Society will help the victims get these petitions done. You get it filed within hours. There is a temporary injunction which will freeze the money, whether it's crypto or in a financial institution, and then a final hearing will be heard in 7 to 10 days. Now, this used to be where the issue is. You had to provide service to the person to get to a final hearing. How do you provide service to somebody who's in India or in Myanmar, or I don't even know who they are because they're hiding behind some fake identity? Well, now the injunction, that the amendment allows us to serve what they call an unascertainable respondent in the same way that they contacted our victim. So if our victim was contacted by Millionaire Matchmaker, go right to Millionaire Matchmaker, say, hey, by the way, you got a court date this day, this time. If it was through a text message, you text it. Through an email, you email. If it was a cold call, whatever account that they set up with, the bank account, there's a phone number or an email that's attached to either the crypto wallet or the bank account. We will notify them through there. So it gets us to our final hearing. And so now we're able to get to that final hearing, and within 7 to 10 days, get an order from the court saying that bank or that cryptocurrency is ordered to go back to our victim. There is a 30-day caveat that if it's unascertainable, they're going to let the banks or the crypto hold it for 30 days. But our worst case scenario is we're now looking at the money going back into the hands of our victims within 6 weeks versus 6 to 8 months while they try to maneuver the civil court systems themselves. But it all starts with the partnerships of law enforcement, the state attorney's office, and, you know, legal aid, but it doesn't go anywhere if we can't get people to feel more comfortable to report as quickly as possible.
And so I know that I see Sal was giving us the hand, and so we're going to go through the rest of this rather quickly, but we really wanted to put a strong emphasis on the new initiatives that we've put in place to help people like you, your neighbors. These are people in our community who have been victimized, and what we're trying to do is help with recovery. And that's really not a state attorney's function necessarily, but we know how important it is to the community. Even when we cannot necessarily prosecute the case, how can we make sure that the resources are available to help recover the money? And that's why we wanted to really share that with you all and make sure that you know that we're working on something that has the possibility of being a really huge benefit to our community.
And just to briefly breeze through, not to let you think that as much as the recovery is important to us, so is the prosecution. And so through that, we have been going out and doing education and getting there to be an understanding of the differences between the different exploitations. And so just in the last couple weeks, we've had 2 arrests for home health care aides. One was arrested on June 13th, the other was June 3rd. And so we are continuing the prosecutions and taking those seriously to the point where, again, we now have a dedicated unit that is handling these specific types of cases, and as well as the education of a lot of times when people hear that there was a POA, like, oh, it's a civil matter.
Power of attorney, sorry. Just
correct.
In case someone doesn't.
Thank you. And so those actually can be more of the easier ways for us to be able to prove an exploitation, because we simply in this situation have to prove a breach of fiduciary duty. So in as much as recovery is important, so is prosecution. And just to let you know that we are handling it in every different direction that we can, understanding that there are things that, you know, we can't do, but we have no problem getting creative with the partnerships that we have with law enforcement and figuring out a way to continue to keep your community safe.
And is there one last one? Okay. And so what we have, we left out on the table is the Florida's Identity Theft Victim Kit, and it's a guide for victims of identity theft detailing what to do and who to contact pretty comprehensive guide out there on the table, as well as some resources for you to take with you, give to your friends, just giving you a bunch of different numbers and websites where you can go for information should you or someone you know become a victim of identity theft or fraud. Should we take questions or, oh, thank you. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Chief Pape, for being such a great partner with us.
We got a question, I think.
Thank you, Saul, and thank you so much to all of the folks from law enforcement. I think we're so fortunate in this area, and you deserve a lot of our gratitude, frankly. So I appreciate, while the ranks have thinned a little bit, I think people really appreciate how you're always standing up for us. One thing I wanted to ask, it begs the question that you're having to navigate through a set of systems, and you gave a little ray of hope with something the governor is doing, and probably with your agitation. But why is there not more enforcement in terms of changing the laws around somebody changing their address and, you know, not being easily scammed with the post office or with their deed or other things? Why are there not more protections coming in that way? Or is there something we can do as citizens to help agitate for some legal reforms so some of these things get choked off and you don't have to navigate through this silliness that you deal with?
Well, I can tell you, I mean, I've gone to Tallahassee. I have definitely spoken to our legislative delegation here, and it is something that I think is top of mind, along with everything else. Thousands and thousands and thousands of bills are filed. Only so many can make it, you know, to the governor's desk. So what we will continue to do, which is what we've been doing, is we will advocate, and oftentimes we will put forth bills of our own. So I think once we see how this partnership can work, if there are some gaps in some legislation that we can put forward for the benefit of the people of Palm Beach County, we'll do that and take it all the way, you know, to Tallahassee and advocate for it if we can, and we'll see what we come up with. But, you know, we've done it in the past. Things don't always make it out of committee or make it even, you know, to the committee. So we're going to do everything that we can. But if you have relationships with your local delegation, talk to them and tell them, you know, whoever represents you in this area in Tallahassee, make sure you let them know what you're seeing and how they can assist us in Tallahassee with getting some more legislation that can either be tougher on crime or just making sure that the systems don't have to work so hard to work together. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
I want to thank Alexcia because David and I had breakfast, I think it was, with Alexcia some 6 months ago or whatever, before she ran. Yeah. But she's as real today as she was then. I mean, absolutely genuine, beat no punches. I mean, you know, as it is. So thank you very much for you being here, and your assistant over here very much. Very educational. Thank you.
And we'll be back anytime you need us.
Sure. Anytime I need you, I hope never. Well, look, I thank all of you for hanging in there. I know it was a long day, but we have no July or August meeting. Our next meeting is September the 16th at Mirasol, and we got a theme coming into that meeting. It's going to be environmental. So we got 1,000 Friends of Florida coming down, perhaps somebody from Mirasol. They got an environmental group out there that will take some time on the agenda as well, too. So once again, on the Northlake Boulevard, no firm date as of today, despite all the rumors and all the misinformation that's being printed out there. But hang in there, and we'll do everything we can to make sure we're safe. And thank you, Chief Pape, for everything you do. Thank you very much. Be safe. Tell the gang to be safe back there.